What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the 1776 podcast. My co-host Forrest James and myself, Matthew Guthrie, have on Thomas Gardner today. Thomas is the owner of Hudson's Meat Market, which has been a historic meat processing company here in Austin since, I believe, the 60s. Really well known for their building down on South Congress. More recently, they've opened up a place out in Marble Falls, but they're a wonderful meat market and wild game processing company. Everyone in town seems to use them, from the game wardens to the police to every local hunter I know. You know, Hudson's is the place to go to take your animals and for taxidermy. And now they've got quite a selection of wild meat, eggs, chicken, whatever you think of, you can go and buy from them. And so today the owner, Thomas, comes on. He's a really interesting local Austinite, been in Austin forever, owned a sandwich shop at one point and just had some really fun Austin stories to share with everybody. So I hope you all enjoy.
Mr. Thomas Gardner, thank you for joining us today and coming in.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'd love to kind of start from the beginning. Growing up in Austin, I want to hear some stories. Cat Mountain.
Yeah, so I grew up, I was born here in Austin and grew up. My grandparents have a place over, or had a place over off of Mount Bunnell and Cat Mountain. My mom and dad lived down off of Brush Country. Lived here all through like my childhood. It's kind of an elementary school. My parents split. I spent my school year up in Dallas, but then would spend every summer down here. My grandparents owned Bettis TV and Appliance. I think at the time there were several stores, but the main one was over behind Lamb's Candy over off of Airport. Yep. That's actually still there,
oh, wow,
thankfully. Yeah, it's one of the few. But I grew up playing around in that warehouse, had empty refrigerator boxes with packing blankets. I'd like jump off the top of the office into this and just like try to steal the forklift and just anything I could to get in trouble over there. Back then, Lamb's was a little more, I guess they weren't doing as much co-packing, so it was a little more unregulated, so I could like sneak in the back door and like grab saltwater taffy off of the line. My grandpa did a lot of their repair work, so I kind of had a free...
Get out of jail free pass.
Yeah, I got a little free reign over there, and your grandpa is the one kind of saving the day with some repairs. They kind of let you come in and dick around. But yeah, and they also had a houseboat out on Lake Travis. I remember coming in, we'd spend the whole week out on Travis, just tooling around in the boat and hanging out and swimming. Back when the water levels were actually up. And
yeah, we had a lake.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I loved it here. So I eventually went to school out in Lubbock at Texas Tech.
We'll try not to hold that against you.
We'll see here pretty soon. I think it's the last scheduled game for UT and Tech is
interesting.
The day after Thanksgiving. I think my family's going to all go and check that out.
It's a shame that it's the last game.
I know. I have a feeling they'll eventually schedule stuff, kind of like, I don't remember if they did that with A&M, but I have a feeling that they'll make some of those early season games against some of their
I hope they do.
Old rivals. I hope so too. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Big 12 and SEC and everything, because it seems like the Big 12 is just taking on whoever's willing to sign them. It's just like we're gonna get the numbers up. We don't care who it is, so let's get them in.
What's happening? Do you know by chance? What Oklahoma, are they going to the SEC too?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that was part of like a package deal. I think UT kind of helped them. I don't know if it's financially or what, but yeah, they're supposed to be changing at the same time. This next season will be the first season. Yeah.
I thought I'd heard that. Makes sense.
Yeah. No, it'll be interesting. Hopefully, Oklahoma and UT and A&M all schedule some early season games with some of the old Big 12 rivals.
Yeah.
So did you come right back to Austin after Tech?
No, I moved out to California for culinary school. So at Tech, I did hospitality management out there. Moved out to St. Helena, did culinary school at the Culinary Institute of America. Really enjoyed Napa. Stayed out there for as long as I could, about a year and a half, almost 2 years, and just got really expensive to live out there. I think I was working like 2-3 jobs, and was just thinking to myself, I was like, man, I'm working a lot, not really enjoying, all the beautiful nature and wineries and all this stuff out there. So a buddy of mine, or actually a few of my friends from college, when I moved to California, they moved up to Breckenridge, and some of them to Vail. And I was like, you know what, that wouldn't be too bad. When I was living in Napa, we'd go a lot over to Reno and hang out, do there, go skiing at Tahoe, and I was like, I could live in a ski resort for a little bit, yeah. So worked in Vail for me. I was gonna move out there. I was like, man, I'm just gonna live here for a season or two, move back to Texas, and I think I ended up living there for like 6.5 years. Finally, I looked around. I was just like, all right, like. Be some ski resort burnout. I got to figure something out. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I loved living up there. Got to do a little public land hunting up there. Skied. I had a motorcycle I'd ride in the summertime because once you leave west out of Vail, I mean, there's just not a whole lot until you get to Grand Junction. But yeah, no, I loved it up there. It's beautiful. We. Been up hunting up there a few times since, and have some family in Durango that we still get a chance to go up there and go skiing a few times. But so after that, I moved back to Texas and was working in Dallas for a little while.
What were you doing there?
I was executive sous at the Crescent Hotel, and then I did a little bit of work with the mansion on Turtle Creek. But as Rosewood Resorts, worked with them for a few years, and then got the opportunity. They were wanting to transfer me, and was looking at going to either Vancouver or New York, which are very different.
Yeah.
And then when I started looking into it, I was like, okay, well, if I move to Canada, I'm going to have to pay double the tax, and Vancouver is not the cheapest cheapest place to live by any means. So ended up actually it's just started dating my now wife, and she was in the process of getting ready to go to NYU for her master's. So I was like, well, why don't I just go to New York and kind of see what happens with this. So moved up there, worked at the Carlisle Hotel as the exec sous there for I guess 1.5 years, almost 2 years.
So up until this point, you were basically a chef. You've been a chef your whole life.
Yeah, for my whole life. I started cooking around Lubbock in college, and I really enjoyed it. Changed my major to hospitality management. I was like, this seems more my speed. I think I was really enjoying the lifestyle of working in the service industry a little too much. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and that's why I guess as my senior year at college, I was kind of looking like, man, I need to get a job or I got to do something. And one of my friends was like, hey, you need to check out this culinary program. So I was like, all right, I can go do a little more school, extend this ride for a little bit longer. And I ended up going to St. Helena with him, and really enjoyed it. So kept kind of working in the industry, cooking, just kind of taking that wherever. In that industry, I guess, to kind of move up, you got to move around a lot. If you're willing to move, you can definitely advance and kind of help your career a little bit more. I still have a buddy that's still doing it. I think he's up in Martha's Vineyard, and then has moved around to Colorado. He's working at the Stanley Hotel for a little while from The Shining. Yeah. I got to visit with him one year that they have their big Halloween party at the Stanley, and they dress the whole place up.
Oh, wow.
Just like The Shining. Yeah, it's really cool. It's a really cool thing, and they're kind of out near Estes, so it's it is pretty remote out there.
And that's right on the edge of the national park, I believe, right?
Yeah, it sure
Mountain.
is. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's in the wintertime. It's real rough getting up there. But
I stayed a few nights in the KOA campground in Estes Park there.
Oh, right on. Yeah. When I was in college, did a 2-week backpacking trip through Estes. It was a lot of fun. They still had one of the upper lakes still had a big glacier in the middle of it. I think it's long gone by now, but that was really cool getting to kind of just come across this mountain peak, and you look down and there's just this beautiful blue lake with just this giant like almost tooth-looking glacier sitting in the middle of it.
Very cool.
But yeah.
So New York sounds like you were what, probably mid to late 20s by the time you made it to New York?
Yeah, I was thinking mid-20s. Yeah, I'd always wanted to either cook in New York or Chicago. I was like, before, I knew eventually I'd probably get out of the industry just because it is a young man's game for the most part, unless you really get one of those, very nice kind of corporate gigs. But yeah, so I moved up there, stayed with Rosewood Hotels, worked for the Carlisle, which is a really cool experience. They have the Cafe Carlisle there where Woody Allen plays with his like Dixieland jazz band. I think it was once a month. So I'd kind of, put out service and then go sneak up there and listen to all the acts.
Did you meet some pretty cool people there?
Yeah. Man, we had all kinds of, we had the Rolling Stones. I think it was on their like 50 Licks tour came through.
Wow.
Lady Gaga, Justin Bieber. Got to meet Tom Selleck. I was actually, I'd gone up to the bar to talk with the bartender about some stuff, and I feel somebody come like stand next to me. I look over, and it's just this towering guy, and I was like, "You're Tom Selleck." He's like, "Yep, I am." Big mustache, everything. I think he's actually staying in the hotel, doing Blue Bloods up there in New York, the TV show, but. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, a lot of people came through there. Tobey Maguire, like, I think a lot of those actors and actresses have like special diets. So I'd have to go meet with them or their nutritionist and like figure out what we're going to feed them while they're there. But yeah, the Carlisle was a really cool experience. It's a very historical building. I mean, it's actually a Netflix special, I think, with Bill Murray from a few years ago. I think it was during COVID that shows all of like kind of the back of the house. It's kind of, I forget who else is with them, but it's a really cool kind of Carlisle Netflix special. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed working there, and I really enjoyed New York. Just the food scene up there is great. I mean, any time of day you can go find something. I'm very glad I got out of there before COVID. But
how'd you make it back to Austin? What was the transition there?
My fiance at the time, now wife, had just graduated NYU and was starting to look around for jobs, and she was doing museum studies. She got her master's in museum studies, and there's a lot of limited selection of jobs up there that pay, enough to live in New York. So we were looking at that, and Rosewood had just changed ownership. So I kind of found myself in several rounds of interviews for my own job, and I was like, man, I'm not about this. Like, I've done a really good job for y'all, and I'm here interviewing for my job. So we kind of started looking around, and I was like, man, I'm just ready to get back to Texas. So we looked at a few things in Dallas, but I was like, I really want to move back to Austin. So I think we both kind of agreed and packed up and took the long journey in the U-Haul to get back to Austin. Yeah, we.
What year was that?
Was that 2011, 12? Somewhere around there, yeah. I remember moving back, and it was like one of the hottest summers we had up until last summer, actually.
I think that might have been 2011.
I think so, yeah. I was just like, even my wife Barbara was just like, why did we move back here again? I was like, I know, but, you have some other seasons eventually, but...
I was selling snow cones that summer.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
That was a good summer to sell snow cones, I'm sure. Yeah, that was pretty brutal, but no, we were happy to move back. I kind of bounced around from a few jobs and eventually landed helping open the Whole Foods up at the Domain, kind of working in the kitchen there and working different parts of that. And that was kind of where I landed for a little while, and that was when I decided, I was like, all right, I've got to get out and work for myself. Like, I'm tired of working these corporate jobs, working for somebody else. I never really had any trouble finding work until I moved to Austin. I was just like, all right, for some reason, like, the restaurant scene here just isn't vibing with what I'm looking for. So I ended up opening a little sandwich shop called Republica Sandwich over off of North Loop in Hancock. It's right there across from Fonda San Miguel. Ran that for a couple years, and it it was great. I loved it. I still like reminisce about, maybe going back and doing that one day. All my buddies and my wife are just like, I would love to have the sandwich shop back, but no, like that's just too much. You're already working enough. But yes, that actually afforded me the opportunity to meet Barrett Klein, who owned Hudson Meat Market. We just starting to get real busy with the sandwich shop, so I was looking to see if I could outsource some of the meat production. We're making our own bacon, ham, all that sort of stuff. So I met with him. It never really worked out with him making our stuff, but he kind of hinted it. He's like, "Hey, I've got this contract with an agent, but whenever that expires, like, I'd really be interested to talk to you about Hudson's." And eventually that expired, and we started, he disclosed to me he was looking to sell, and it took us several months to kind of work out the deal and get it all done. But I took that over, what was that, I guess 6.5 years ago now. It's July, but
That's awesome.
So for folks who don't know, Hudson's to me is probably the most iconic meat market. Anyone I talk to that hunts, normally is Hudson's is the place that they're dropping off. And you have the, I don't know if it's technically historic. To me, it is on South Congress, the old building that's been there.
It feels like it should be. Yeah, it's been there since 1969. It was Hudson Meat Market, then it was briefly Stewart's Meat Market, and then the Hudson family took it back over. But yeah, they've been operating there for a long time. I mean, it at the time when they were there, it didn't really look out of place. South Congress was a lot more industrial. It was kind of a little bit of a seedier side of town, and then obviously over the years, that's whole has transformed, and what it is now with them developing down there at the Statesman property and Music Row. It's slowly bleeding out all the locals, and you see all these national brands moving in. But yeah, I mean, it's great being there. I love the location. It's cool having something like that kind of still in the heart of Austin. And,
I do chuckle a little bit. I was down there with Forrest. He was dropping off an elk or something. I'm sitting there and, you're a meat market. You get your typical hunters coming in there all the time. We're picking up elk, and then you look out and there's like, a green-haired Mohawk walking by. And so to me, that's so Austin though. That's what Austin is you have the artist people walking by, and there's a meat market with, hunters in there dropping off elk and bear. And so I'm curious though, as Austin's grown and expanded, being a meat market right there, I mean, do you get any sort of flack from that? I mean, or any sort of pushback? Has there been any drama over it?
When I first took over, we would have protesters from PETA there every now and again, but they'd come and protest for a couple hours and then kind of disappear.
Wear out.
No, I mean, I think what was it? One of my first years there, it's Sunday, we've got a line trying to get everybody through, dropped off, and it was backed up to Congress, and there's this SUV with a little basket on the back with probably 3 white-tailed deer just like, toe strapped down to the deal, and it's kind of blocking the sidewalk, so I'm trying to get them moved, and this lady walks by with a stroller and just like, this should be illegal, like, you can't do this in downtown. And I was like, well, we've been doing it in downtown for a few decades, so I was like, we're trying to get you moved, or, I apologize. And she's whips out the cameras, taking photos, and says she's going to report me. And I was like, all right, just do whatever you got to do. I was like, well, hell, half the people who you're going to report me to are probably and the police force are probably hunters with us anyway.
Exactly. Customers here.
Yeah, we have so many of APD that drops off with us. I was like, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a weird juxtaposition of kind of more of the hill country, meeting kind of the weirdness of Austin. With like June's right across the street, so you got these people paying high dollar lunches, looking at the meat market with just like trucks full of deer and elk coming by. But yeah, I agree. I think it's something that kind of makes Austin a little more unique in that regard. It's sad to see some of that disappearing, but I'm glad we can still hold the line a little bit down on South Congress.
I've got great memories pulling down South Congress with the parents' 98 Suburban with the basket on the back with 3 or 4 deer piled up and getting all sorts of looks as we pulled in. But
oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it's It's funny how the South Congress is now kind of extended down to us. With before all that stuff was kind of more farther north of us, but with Torchies and more stuff coming south of us, it seems like we're kind of more in the heart of it now than we were before.
I know y'all recently, or not so recently, for several years now, expanded, have another location out in Marble Falls.
Yeah, so we took over Hill Country Fine Meats in Marble Falls. I guess that was 2018, I think. We've been out there about 5 years. It's been going great. I think it's just another opportunity for our customers to have another spot to drop off with us a little closer out to the Hill Country. We were recognizing that in Austin, it's getting backed up. We only have the one location. We do what we can to take it in, but kind of the geography of the location doesn't really allow us to do a whole lot. So, we're starting to look out in Fredericksburg. One of my vendors was like, we should really consider Marble Falls, and we had family friends out there, so I was kind of looking around. There's a couple properties listed, but I like that this one was already a meat market. He did kind of small-scale deer processing out there. So it was really cool. It kind of had all the equipment, had the kind of hill country vibe, the limestone front of the building, just kind of a little rustic look to it. So we actually partnered with Wildlife Designs Taxidermy. They took over half the building, and we took over the other half. So we kind of pair out there pretty well with having access to taxidermy for our customers. They do really good work, and then also being able to drop off your deer, pick up steaks, poultry, anything out there. But
Wildlife Design has been great to me over the years. Same with Hudson's. It's been a go-to, easy drop off at the same spot, get them out same spot. So
we appreciate that. Yeah, they do a good job out there. We're actually in the process of expanding. For those of you listeners who drop off out in Marble Falls, they'll see this year there's a big 3,000 square foot building in the back. It'll eventually be a 2-story building to help us with deer processing out there, help turn around time a little bit, and then provide us some cold storage in-house. Yeah, it's nice. I mean, we've loved Marble Falls. It's grown leaps and bounds in the 5 years we've been there. I think COVID helped us find a lot of customers out there with that HEB kind of struggling. I think most of the grocery stores struggle out there to kind of keep up with, everybody eating at home now. So I think it allowed a lot of people to start looking out elsewhere and say, hey, there's other meat markets or other places I can get all this stuff. And luckily, we've been able to retain a lot of that customer base. I think it's real important just for kind of our food supply to have more of these places like Hudson's,
Absolutely.
Salt and Thyme, like little meat markets we have that work with a lot of local ranchers. So, allows us to bring in stuff from, not from the big box, Kansas City guys. So just another outlet for people to find meat and find local interesting item.
it was nice to hear that business picked up during COVID and y'all actually gained more customers, because you heard so many horror stories of businesses getting shut down and not able to operate during COVID.
Yeah, definitely. It was pretty rough at the first few months. We saw a lot of our wholesale orders either drop dramatically or get canceled altogether. Just because a lot of the business we do wholesale is through distributors like U.S. Foods, Cisco, Buckhead. So they're serving restaurants, directly, and if we're not getting orders from them, that means restaurants aren't ordering from them. So I think it took a little time for people to kind of find, all right, we'll do takeout or we'll modify this, and it was pretty rough. It definitely changed how we operate. We moved a lot of our stuff to online so we could serve our, walk-in business a little bit better. People would just order online. We could bring it out to their car. They could just come in, the orders.
Would y'all do any shipping with dry ice?
Yeah. We've always done shipping for deer processing, but during COVID, I was in the process of working on building out an online market with our website, and when it hit, I was just like, all right, I guess
go time.
this is the week. So
I don't think I have a good understanding of what all you do. So if I'm not a hunter and I'm just looking to buy meat, what all do you have to offer in that situation?
So our Marble Falls is a full service meat market. They've got a little more retail space than we do in Austin. So pretty much anything they carry, we do carry in Austin. We just don't have it out.
Mm-hmm.
But Marble Falls is, pork, beef, chicken, anything you think of. You can call up, say, hey, I need a chuck roast, for this weekend, and they'll cut it for you. But yeah, out there, it's a full service meat market. Same with Austin. We just have a little different clientele. Because we're on Congress, we get a lot more foot traffic from, out of towners, visitors. So we have a little more like ready to eat, like jerky, snack sticks, stuff like that. I've slowly been building out. Like we offer steaks, chicken, all of that kind of stuff in the Austin location. We do all of our wholesale processing there. So there's just a little bit less space in the retail area, but we've slowly been building that out. And, you call up and we can get ribs, briskets, whatever you want for a cookout. But yeah, so our Austin location is where we do all of our USDA processing and most of our deer processing. And then Marble Falls is more of a storefront, and then they do some of the deer processing there.
So I don't know much about meat markets. I mean, I went with him to drop off some animals, and it kind of just clicked all of a sudden. Like, oh yeah, so you're a hunter. You kill a deer, you quarter it, you bring it in. I mean, so we break it down. It's super simple. I know nothing about hunting, meat markets, anything. I mean, what's the process? I'm a brand new hunter. I mean, how does this work exactly?
So you bring it to us. Either skin it and quarter it, bring it in. Some people bring them in just field dressed. So we'll skin it for you. Take care of any taxidermy through Wildlife Designs. We kind of make that pretty easy. And then basically we break down the deer, give you all your whole muscle stuff, whether you want steaks, roast, jerky, whatever whole muscle stuff you're looking for. And then you kind of go through our menu and just select, say, hey, I want, jalapeno cheese links, some buck sticks, and some breakfast sausage. We split all that up for you, package it in same packaging we use for like our USDA products. It's all vacuum sealed, labeled, frozen, and put into a box. So you come in, you drop off your deer. A few weeks later, you come pick it up, and you can stock your freezer up with whatever you're looking for.
So if I shot a whitetail and dropped it off, and they said, what do you want out of this? I'd say I have no idea. So coming from you, you've been chef your whole life and own Hudson's. If you had a whitetail and you dropped it off, what boxes are you checking?
So for me, I normally do the back straps. I cook a lot of steaks and like chicken and stuff at the house. So normally when it comes to deer, especially whitetail, it's all about stuff that's real easy to prepare. So I'll usually do our back straps and like smoked and peppered. So we like cure it like a ham, pepper it, and fully cook it. So it's really nice for just like, hey, you're having a few people over, bring it out, slice it up, throw a little cheese on the board, you got a little appetizer. I used to always get into the steaks and they just sit in the freezer, and like half the time I was like, I don't want any whitetail steak. So I do it this way, slice it up, and half the time people don't even know it's venison. Yeah. You tell them, and they, people enjoy it and they think it's great. But yeah, it's nice to have something like that where it's a little easier. So usually that tenders, I usually either grind them depending on how big they are, but keep them whole and just kind of cook them up. And then this is a product that just has grown on me over the years, is our fajitas. I used to get a pound or two, and now I'll turn both of my hams into fajitas because it is the first thing to disappear at our house.
Venison fajitas? Yeah. I've never even heard that was even possible.
Yeah, so we'll take the just a nice roast out of the whitetail, slice them kind of on a bias so you get like nice pieces, and then just use a nice fajita recipe that's been with Hudson's for years, and it has a little bit of like pepine in there to help break down the muscles. So it's super tender, great flavor. Like, I'll cook it up and do like taco salad night with, venison fajita, and it disappears. Like, I think I was with Forrest a couple months ago and had an elk, and I think I've almost gone through a whole rump of fajitas on that elk already. And I was like, I mean,
I
it
bet
just
those are
disappears so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then usually just depending on the hunter, you know, I'll talk to them and say, you know, do you a lot of hamburger? You know, you can use hamburger, make tacos, meatballs, you know, kind of whatever you can think of that you'd use ground meat in. Some are like, nope, I don't cook at home at all. So, all right, well, let's get you some sausage and some more stuff that's a little easier to cook. But yeah, I'd say for us, you know, our sausage is really where, you know, we're the most known for. I think the jalapeno cheese sausage, our regular, our garlic are all super popular. Those are my favorites by far. And then we kind of do like a country style breakfast sausage, so it's similar to like a Jimmy Dean or something like that. That's nice because it has really good seasoning. We mix it with pork, so it kind of cuts down on the gaminess, adds a little fat to it, makes it a little more easy to eat. I mean, you know, my wife and I first got married, she was like, I don't like venison.
I hear that a lot from my girlfriend's the same way.
Yeah,
I'm like, well, I feel
I
like
said,
we-
okay. So I'd start by taking ground meat and making tacos, you know, and you put taco seasoning and everything in there. She's like, oh, this is great. I was like, all right, cool.
Baby
So
steps.
Yeah, so I just kept doing it, and finally she caught me. I was taking the, you know, has the venison or the Hudson Meat Market, kind of our deer processing logo on there, and she's like, is that deer? I was like, yeah. She goes, oh, I don't want that. And I was like, well, that's like 5 times you've had taco salad. It's been with, you know, whitetail mixed with beef. And she's like, really? I was like, yeah. I was like, let me just make it. If you don't like it, whatever. And, you know.
Sounds like she took that pretty well.
Yeah,
though.
exactly. No, so now it's just kind of funny now because I was doing something with some of the elk we had, and we had some friends over, and she's like, "Oh, I love deer meat."
You're probably sitting there
I was like, you know what? I'm
chuckling.
not even gonna say anything. I'm just gonna enjoy the fact that this is where we're at.
She switched teams.
Yeah,
There you go.
exactly.
So-
But I think there's just so much of it. There's kind of no option in that house.
Yeah. What percentage of your business is wild game processing versus the wholesale side?
I'd say it's about half and half. You know, kind of 3 aspects of the business are wholesale, providing distributors, restaurants, hotels with sausage, steaks, all the different stuff we do on the wholesale side. Deer and wild game processing, which we do year round. So, I mean, the majority of it's done through rifle season. We get a fair amount of MLD and exotics on either side of the
What's
season.
MLD?
Managed land. I forget what the D stands for, but it's basically you work with the Texas Parks and Wildlife as a private landowner. They come in with a wildlife biologist, say, hey, you know, we're going to help you manage your whitetail population out here to keep a healthy population for the vegetation and water you have available. You need to take, you know, 10 doe and 2 bucks this year, just for example. I mean, the larger amount of land you have, you may, I mean, I have some customers that are like, yeah, I have to take 112 doe and
Holy
14 bucks this year. And a lot of them have several owners, or they'll work, you know, with people to come and help take some of that. But yeah, managed land kind of lets you hunt with an extended season on either side. It's mainly kind of before season, but part of that as well is like the LCRA and Texas Parks and Wildlife help manage like the airport, any of the LCRA land along the Colorado, any state parks, anything like that that's owned by the county or the state. They'll go out and help manage that population. That's how we keep CWD, chronic wasting disease, down. It just encourages a healthy population. You know, as we've gotten rid of a lot of the predator species, because, you know, it's great for wildlife to have coyotes and all these predators. It's not so great for landowners and, you know, residents to, you know, especially like we were talking about earlier out in Count Mountain, like that used to be, you know, just covered in mountain lions, just, you know, all kinds of wildlife. And
That's right in
as
town,
it's-
too.
Yeah, and as it's been developed, I mean, I remember my grandparents had a pretty good property there that was on a arroyo. There's a dry creek bed with a big like Mount Benel behind them, and we'd be sitting on the back deck, and you'd see at night the little game trails. You'd see mountain lions coming down through
That's
there.
wild.
Yeah. But that's the kind of thing that keeps the deer moving and keeps a healthy population. So without that, obviously people don't want mountain lions roaming around in their backyards. So as we've gotten rid of that, deer become more stagnant, obviously overpopulate. And there's only so with droughts and stuff that we've been having. There's only so much of a population that the land can support. So
That's fascinating. I think I pulled you on that tangent, though. Thank you. But you're saying three aspects to the business.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I pulled you off on that, but thank you. That was great.
Yeah. So, getting back to that, I guess, deer and wild game processing is a big one. We do whitetail, axis, eland, nilgai. I mean, you name it, we've probably processed it. And then we also do direct to consumer, so retail. We have an online website, hudsonmeatmarket.com. You can kind of see a wide variety of what we have. Have some different offerings in store, just with shipping and everything. But yeah, you can either order online or come in store. We've really been trying to grow that. I think, as Austin's grown, not as many people know about all these different places that exist. HEB is great, but there's, other people out there to, get your meats from and see a little different variety. But yes, that's kind of a smaller aspect of the business. But the Marble Falls store, I think, is definitely a lot more based on the retail. It's great that community out there, Horseshoe Bay and Marble Falls, has really supported us and watched us grow out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Where are you sourcing your meat? So if I was to come buy, we could Forrest and I like to call it moo cow, but if I was to come buy moo cow from you, or what's the other one for elk? What is moo cow, and what's the other one?
Moo cow.
That's just moo cow. I thought there was another one, but I guess it's a cow elk and then moo cow. So
Yeah.
But if I was to come in and buy some moo cow steak from you, where would you source that meat from?
A lot of it comes from San Angelo. We work with Pack Quality Foods out there. They source a lot of it from Texas. Like we worked with MTX Beef for a while. Some of it does come from Kansas, but we really try to source it all locally when we can. Right now, beef pricing is just insane, so we kind of scramble to find different suppliers. All of our poultry comes from Nixon, Texas. It's Holmes Chicken. They're by far the best chicken I've had. They're a small processor down there. It's nice that they've grown so much. It's a little harder to get product from them, but it's all free range. They raise their chickens like a natural size, so you'll see all their whole chickens are 2.5, 3 pounds instead of these.
All the bloated stuff.
Yeah,
we
so
get in
these
the store.
pumped up like mini turkeys you see at the grocery store. So yeah, they've been great as a supplier. We get all of our pork from Seaboard. It's in Guyman, Oklahoma. We get their like all natural line, but they get great Duroc hogs. Use a lot of that in our sausage, but then we also make bacon, hams, all that kind of stuff. And then most of our wild game, like alligator from Florida, we get our elk. A lot of it comes from Canada or North America, kind of like Wyoming, Idaho area.
So I can come in and buy elk from you?
Yep.
So I thought the laws, and I guess it's
farmed elk, correct?
Yeah, it's farmed. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's the laws. They're able to basically high fence ranch operations with the elk.
Right.
Okay.
So the deer and wild game processing, you bring me a deer, we process that and give it back to you. So I legally can't sell that. Let's say you say, I don't want my order. I can't take that and throw it up in retail. We either have to figure out other outlets. We work with Hunters for the Hungry. So every year we donate a few thousand pounds of
Wow, that's
some
great.
of the donated whitetail and mule deer. It's a lot more whitetail and mule deer, but we donate a few thousand pounds to Central Texas Food Bank, and they distribute it to local, shelters and nonprofits. But yeah, so anything you bring in is processed and given back to you. All of the stuff that we sell in retail is processed either through state inspection or USDA inspection, or some of it comes from New Zealand or Canada, and they have federal inspection there. You don't see as much of that in the U.S. Because it's referred to as a non-amiable species, so they're not processed under USDA normally. You'd have to have a USDA inspector come in, pay them overtime. It's a little more of a process and a little more expensive. And a lot of those game breeds just don't have the yield on them that you see out of, commercial cattle. So it's a lot more expensive, a little harder to get, but it is out there. Yeah. So
Very interesting.
Yeah, we do a lot of ground venison, elk steaks, elk jerky. We started carrying a lot more bison. We were working with Oro Bianco out of Blanco for a little while on doing some water buffalo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're carrying that off and on. Yeah, it's really cool. We do a lot of processing for them for hot dogs and stuff for their food venues, and kind of work with them get on some of that water buffalo. All that wild game, it seems to move a lot in the holidays. We're kind of getting into the season where people are like, man, I'm tired of serving, bone-in ribeye or, rib roast or turkey or whatever. They're like, let's get in a bison tenderloin or elk steak or do something a little different. So,
You see seafood ever in the future of Hudson's
we actually
business?
worked with, started working with Austin Seafood, and a little bit with Heritage Seafood, and have started bringing in salmon and stuff to our Marble Falls store.
Gotcha.
We bring in a little bit in the Austin store. We're just so kind of cramped on space. We just haven't really ventured into that. We're kind of still working on making a more robust offering in the Austin store.
Gotcha.
Just so much of that is tourist traffic that it's just like, they'll come in and get their pound of jerky and all that kind of stuff. But slowly the community's kind of remembering that we're there and coming in, grabbing steaks, grabbing poultry, eggs, that sort of stuff. But yeah, we've definitely started moving into that in our Marble Falls store. Whenever we took over Hill Country Fine Meats, the side that the taxidermy's on now was actually his seafood market. So
Gotcha.
He had a seafood market, sold quite a bit. But yeah, we're kind of trying to move back into that and do a little bit more of that in Marble Falls.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love it.
Yeah.
Love some more seafood options. Wild caught seafood that's sourced right. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah. We've been working with Ben McBride a little bit at Heritage Seafood. Kind of need to revisit with him on bringing some stuff in the Austin store. But he mainly, I think, or exclusively, all of his seafood is from the Gulf in Texas, and it's great seeing that. So you'll see drum, snapper, all this stuff from Texas, shrimp, everything. That,
Hell yeah.
you don't have to worry about getting all those like Filipino shrimp and all that kind of stuff that's been shipped overseas for months and months. Instead, you get it straight up from the coast and are eating nice local seafood.
And you mentioned eggs. I didn't realize you guys did that. So those, farm raised or
yeah.
grass-fed or whatever
So
it is.
we were working with a few local, like just small kind of home, egg producers. This summer killed a lot of that. There was a little bit of a poultry flu going around that kind of made it a little harder. And then when the drought hit and with being over 100, a lot of those guys just dried up. So we found a producer outside of I think it's actually a veteran-owned producer outside of Dallas called Cedar Ridge. And it's all free range, local Texas raised eggs. So we started bringing them in. They've been great to work with. But yeah, we've definitely tried to offer more and more at the meat market of kind of a one-stop shop of eggs, cheese, just anything you can think of.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I want to hear some stories about people bringing in ridiculous animals. I know there has to be, one, like what's the craziest, if you think back, top 5 coolest animals, that list, and also mixed with what has someone brought you where you're like, I am not touching that.
Yeah, on the not touching it, we do get every once in a while people who have come across a deer in their car and think they're going to bring it to us. And for one thing, it's very easily noticeable right away. It's just like
Little road rash.
yeah, I was like, this guy's had a rough day.
The license plate's stuck on the side of the deer.
Right, right. Yeah, so we at both locations have a pretty big sign that we don't accept, roadkill or anything like that. But every once in a while, people try to pass that off on us, and we're just like, nope, you're gonna have to go elsewhere, figure this out yourself.
Do people show up with deer whole, just shot and not cleaned?
Yeah, every once in a while. Sometimes people, I'm just like, man, you really should have field dressed this out in the field.
Real quick, field dressing, just to correct me if I'm wrong, is that basically you're just taking the guts out, the stomach, intestines, you cut it down the middle, pull that out, and then you can bring
basically
it
you're just leaving the hide and the carcass.
Okay.
You're gutting it. So as soon as you harvest or kill a deer, you want to do that right away. That's where most of the heat is from. That's where most of your biological contamination is going to come from. So you want to get all of that out, do as good a job of cleaning as you can. If you have the facility, give it a good, hose out. You're trying to get all that bacteria out of the cavities so you can prolong the meat as long as possible. So that's a really good way to do it, because when the hide's on, it's protecting that meat. So the second you take that hide off, you're exposing it to any sort of bacterial contamination that's on that hide or in the basket or cooler that you're putting it in. So we like getting them in that way. We usually have a little bit longer to get it skinned and get it processed, but we'll take it in quartered as well. But yeah, I mean, getting back to kind of some of the crazy stuff we've seen, I think it was one of my first seasons there. We're unloading a game bag, and all of a sudden we get to the bottom of it. There's just this giraffe leg sitting in the bottom, and I pulled it out, and this guy's like, everything in the bag was frozen, so I think he had just kind of thrown all his meat or whatever. I was like, I don't know what he had going on there, but I was like, we pulled it out. I was like, what do you want us to do with this? He's like, oh, I don't know. It's been in my freezer for a while. I'm just like, all right. He goes, can you make something with it? So I think we ended up making, I think we made like summer sausage or something out of it. So we made like a giraffe leg summer sausage. I was like, that's probably the craziest I've seen. And if it's here in Texas, it came from a Texas ranch. Lord knows where it came from. But yeah, I think, none of that is allowed outside of Africa. So,
I was going to say, I know the laws have changed over the past couple of years. It's very hard to get game back from Africa.
Yeah. I think this was probably one of those exotic ranches somewhere in the hill country. But yeah, it was just kind of funny. We're just unloading it. We've seen zebra. But yeah, it's amazing all the different species and what these game ranches are raising out there. But yeah, I mean, that's probably one of the crazier ones we've seen. We've had, like on the taxidermy side, I've had people bring us like pet rats that they wanted to drop off for the taxidermist.
Did you take them?
Have it. Yeah, luckily, it just so happened that they like dropped it off, because I was like, I can't have that in the plant because we're USDA inspected, so we can't have that in there. But luckily, they dropped off on a day where we're actually just about to go out to Marble Falls. So I was like, all right, we'll take it. And but yeah, the taxidermist, I don't think they do it anymore, but they used to do some pets and stuff like that, because they're one of the few that have freeze dryer, because a lot of those, that's how they're preserved, is in a freeze dryer. So they'll clean the animal out, prep it, pose it, and put it in the freeze dryer, and then you got your little pug or whatever.
Man, having the pet rat in there, that'd be a bad day for an inspection. I promise you. This was brought in, I swear.
We're gonna stuff it.
Yeah. Oh, man. But yeah, I guess I don't know what she would have done with it. I guess it got freeze dried or something. That's beyond me. But yeah, no, definitely. I was like, I am not bringing that in the plant. That's just going to cause all kinds of issues. But yeah, I mean, we see all sorts of. I see a lot of buffalo every year. A lot of eland and nilgai from down in Central Texas or South Central Texas. But yeah, it's great. We've got some really good hunters. Bring in all kinds of stuff. But Yeah, I think that giraffe leg was probably the one that threw me for a loop for sure.
I've been sitting here thinking, like, what is the story on the other end of that? Like, who is this guy? How did he get the giraffe leg? I want to know that half of the story, you know?
It's Texas. I mean, there's just all kinds of people out there. Who knows? Probably just on a game ranch or something. But yeah, it was pretty funny. I think he actually had somebody dropping off for him. So it's exotic. We don't need a tag or anything. So, we'll take it and figure it out for you.
Yeah.
Your team of skinners in the back that handle all the wild game that comes in, were they with Hudson's when you bought it, or have you had to train them up and build your own team?
I had a few guys. Most of the guys that were skinning when I got there are now cutting for me. So we have...
do they start as skinners and work their way up to
Yeah, I'd be
cutters?
curious, like the positions.
Some of them do, yeah. Okay. Yeah, we've definitely had it that way. Right now we have a guy who's just kind of an amateur taxidermist. So he'll come in and skin for us. Gotcha. I think he'll take hides and stuff that nobody wants and practice tanning on them. But and he's done a little bit of cutting for us. But I think he's really trying to get into taxidermy. But yeah, usually like out in Marble Falls, normally most of our skinners are just kind of younger guys that hunt a lot and are just looking for a little bit of work and a little bit of money, outside of hunting and going to school or whatever.
Is Hudson's hiring?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Always. It seems always during deer season. But yeah, we've got some high school kids out there that are skinning for us, and then in any of the capes or anything that's going to be taxidermy, one of our more experienced guys do it. But like we were talking about earlier with that MLD and managed land. Whenever the Parks and Wildlife or LCRA bring us deer, they bring in like 16, 20 at a time. And they're these scrawny little does that, a lot of them have their necks broken or whatever. So you've got to have somebody there that can really make it through quite a bit of deer just to get everything moving. But
I'm sure it's tedious with those little.
It is, and then sometimes you get in those big boys, and that's why I'm glad I have those younger guys there to lift them up on the skinning table. And I was doing a lot of it when I took over, and I've slowly, as I've gotten older and more tired, I'm like, this is a younger man's job. Yeah. After about 10, 15, those big old bucks, it'll take its toll on you. We use a skinning hoist, so a lot of the heavy lifting's done by the hoist, but it's still a lot of work to get those animals broken down for sure.
So the building that you have there on Congress, are you doing the whole process from skinning, deboning, and I don't know the whole process, and then actually cooking and smoking the meat there as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
So kind of the way it works is during deer season, we receive all the wild game in the alley. We have a cooler back there that we store all of the deer meat, hanging deer in. My guys break all that down. When we're done doing USDA processing at the end of the day, we bring all the deer up, start packing it. Kind of the way it works is we'll pack out all the steaks and whole muscle stuff, get that in the freezer, set aside all the trim for that customer, and then as soon as we're kind of in the queue, thaw their trim out, make the sausage, make the breakfast, summer sausage, anything like that, hamburger, and then hard freeze it and get it back to them. But yeah, we do all of it there. I'm working on our Marble Falls location. Part of that addition is so that my guys can pack all the steaks and do a lot of the stuff out there to kind of ease up some of the strain on my Austin crew. But
makes sense.
Yeah. So it all gets done there. Right now, all the stuff from Marble Falls, they'll break it down, wrap it, mark it for that customer. We have a pretty nice deer processing software that helps us keep track of the meat from start to finish. So as soon as you drop off, we tag it. You have a unique number assigned to your deer. We kind of reference that through the process to make sure we got everything processed in a timely manner and get it back out. That way we can make sure when you drop off a deer, you get your deer back.
Are there any laws? I mean, how does it work if I was to bring you a whitetail every day? I mean, when are you like, hey, dude,
So with that, I mean, first of all, there's MLD, and a lot of those guys can bring us a deer almost every day. But with that, when we get a deer in, whitetail or mule deer, we'll take the tag. That has to be logged into our cold storage log. But much past that, that's kind of where my liability ends. If you've got a tag, you give it to us, fill out the cold storage log.
Yeah, you're
I'll wash my hands from there.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the game warden comes through a few times a season, and we'll start going through tags. They normally have something they're looking for, though. In the process, a lot of times they'll find like a turkey tag that was on a whitetail or a black drum tag that was on a whitetail. Most of the time that's just an accident, but there are, occasions out there, but we leave that for our game wardens to figure out.
Yeah.
Have you ever caught someone bringing in a whitetail out of season, pretending it's axis or black buck, pretending it's an exotic?
No, we've definitely had the game warden poke around and ask about that, but no, we've had definitely people call to kind of feel us out for whether we take it. They're like, "Well, I got this whitetail. Like, what do I need?" And first thing we say is, "Well, you're gonna need to bring the tag in."
Oh, never mind.
What if I don't have the tag? And I'm like, "Well, then you're gonna have a problem dropping it off." But yeah, I mean, as far as the deer processor, our liabilities fairly limited. I mean, we try to do our part above and beyond that to make sure that we're taking in stuff that's in season, properly harvested. But yeah, we don't see a whole lot of that. See a lot of axis and elk out outside of season, but that's all exotic, so it's not a big deal. I've seen more kind of crazy stuff that come through taxidermy. I think people are a little more picky about what they're wanting to have processed and eat.
I've never had mountain lion. I've never killed one. I've heard it's good.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never had it either. I don't know what I don't know the laws like around hunting that or processing it.
Well, in Texas, they're a varmint. Colorado and Arizona, I believe they're game animals. So
okay.
You have to have a tag to kill them.
But in Texas, you don't?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, we haven't. I mean, I think the population in Central Texas is, I would say, next to nothing. I mean, I think there's still people who see him out, but yeah, you don't really see a whole lot of mountain lion in this area anymore.
They've gotten very rare.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of hunting. I've only seen one in person.
Really?
That's not true. One in Texas in person.
Yeah. Yeah, the only ones I ever saw were as a kid up there in Cat Mountain.
Right here in Northwest Hills.
Yeah.
We clean pools all over that neighborhood. That's wild.
Well, it's probably good that they're gone out of that area. It's a little sad, but also with how developed that area of Austin's become, it's probably better we don't have any mountain lions out there roaming through.
That'd be terrifying, cleaning a pool. Big old cat coming for a snack.
Yeah, definitely have to watch your bag. Don't put your earbuds in. Yeah.
You may or may not be able to answer this question, but I'm curious what type of celebrity or well-known people got to come through your office, dropping off animals?
The country musician Rick Trevino, he drops off a lot with us. One of my first years there, Earl Campbell came through. The guy gets out of the car and he's like, would you mind coming over to the passenger side to take an order? And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. So grab my stuff, go over there and look down. I was like, this man looks really familiar. And I was like, are you Earl Campbell? He just started laughing and he's like, yeah. He goes, that's me. But yeah, I think just all those years of playing, his knees were just shot, so he couldn't get out of the car. But yeah, it was really cool, kind of talking a little bit of football with him and getting his order. So he's dropped off with us a couple years. I haven't seen him in a while, but kind of part of the story with that, I guess, is Bobby Hudson, who started Hudson's. They have some of the older recipes, or like our classics and our Red Hots, which is a very Texas style sausage. It's kind of a hot gut style pork and beef sausage stuffed into a red casing. So they call them Red Hots. It's probably one of our spicier sausages. So they've been making that for over 50 years at Hudson's. And Bobby claims that that's where Earl Campbell got the idea and tried to use the recipe from Hudson's to do Earl Campbell's famous Red Hots.
Uh-oh.
They've changed a lot over
Shots
the
fired.
years. Yeah. I mean, back in the day, I grew up eating, Earl Campbell Red Hots. I don't know where he's having them processed now, but it's definitely a much different sausage and more kind of like an Eckrich, kind of a finer grind, less kind of home style sausage. But we've get quite a few. Was it Cliff Kingsbury's brother, Texas Tech great, drops off with us. I think they do a lot of big game hunting like elk and like caribou and stuff like that.
I don't know why in my head I'm sitting here thinking of like the dude with the giraffe leg and Matthew McConaughey. I feel like somehow those go together. I don't know why, but
I don't know that Matthew McConaughey is doing a whole lot of hunting.
yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah, he probably. I think if he wants anything, it comes to him.
Yeah,
but I mean that's probably some of our bigger stars that come and drop off with us. But yeah, we get to see them year after year. But yeah, it's cool. We've got a nice little core of hunters that bring us stuff every year.
Any rattlesnakes?
Yeah, not for processing. But yeah, a lot of taxidermy. A lot of guys, as they're out hunting, especially out hunting hogs, will come across rattlesnakes and want to have like a hat band or
So I've eaten rattlesnake several times. Everyone says it tastes like chicken. It does.
Yeah, I've had it. I've had it a couple times. Actually, one of my buddies, who's a chef here in Central Texas, Chef Andy Knutson, he was just at the Texas Monthly Barbecue Fest down in Lockhart over the past weekend. And he was working with Millscale, one of the barbecue pit builders, and they were cooking for Daniel Vaughn, the Texas Monthly barbecue editor, and they had to cook rattlesnake, possum, and armadillo. They said that armadillo cost them almost $300 because armadillos are notoriously will have leprosy.
Yep.
That's where you can get leprosy from. Way back in the day, you'd read some of those old Texas books. They have leper colonies down in South Texas. But so they did all the testing to make sure, these are wholesome animals. But it was part of their, Would You Smoke It or some sort of podcast or something they were doing down there. But it was pretty cool seeing some photos of that. They cooked up a rattlesnake. I think they did, I don't know what they did, but a lot of pictures of them with the armadillo shell serving everything in it and stuff. It was pretty cool, but
that's wild.
Yeah, I definitely don't see. I see a little bit of armadillo for taxidermy, but definitely haven't processed any. I don't think we could either. It's just that would be too worried about getting somebody sick with stuff like that. But yeah, we see rattlesnakes every now and again. But yeah, they're way more popular for taxidermy and for clothing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What's your favorite game animal to eat?
I was lucky enough to get a nilgai on the King Ranch a couple summers ago, and that was pretty tasty. We just shot an elk out in Colorado. I'd say that's probably my favorite. I like the texture of the meat. It's got really good flavor. But yeah, elk's just kind of
hard to beat.
Yeah, it's really hard to beat. The nilgai was good, but I'd definitely say elk. Axis would probably be a close second. That's a very similar, like Axis and Red Stag are very similar to elk in that regard. A lot of the venison that we sell retail in Austin, or actually in both stores, are like a Red Stag elk hybrid. Yeah, I think I'm not sure why they breed those two together. I think it has something to do with the yield on the meat and the temperament of the animal. But it makes it a little easier, I guess, to kind of harvest, and it's all done on high fence ranches. So, but yeah, I'd say elk is probably my favorite. And just the yields on it really good. You get nice big back straps. It's just a nice eating animal.
So you've tricked your wife into venison. Have you tricked her into elk, or where is she on the rest of the animals?
Yeah, no,
she all in now?
I mean, if you can sell them on whitetail, you can sell them on. It's a little easier to sell them on elk. But yeah, I mean, if we're cooking up hamburgers or any sort of ground meat, it's either elk or whitetail at our house.
I was like, what's your personal freezer look like? I'm sure there's a whole mixed bag in there.
It's funny. So I got that Neil guy, which yields. I mean, it's actually two. It was an older bull and then a younger one, and that filled my freezer to the brim. I was giving it away, cooking it, finally got it down, and then this elk trip came up, and I was like, well, I've got to get rid of this. So we started cooking it, and honestly, most of that elk I got in September is still in the freezer at Hudson's. Like, luckily I have access to like a 2,000 square foot freezer, so my freezer at home's pretty modest, just because it can be. I'm at work every day. It's pretty easy to just grab a few things from my order there in the freezer. But yeah, now that deer season's here, I've been getting pressure from my guys. They're like, when are you picking up your order? When are you picking up your order? I was like, all right, I'll get it out of here.
So when you're cooking a steak or a brisket at home, are you using the equipment at Hudson's, or do you have a Traeger or something at the house?
I have right now in my backyard, I had Michael Johnson of Syntex Smokers build me.
You got a badass one.
The most beautiful smoker and live fire table that's sitting in my backyard right now. And I've cooked some ribs, some steaks, and a few things. I think Thanksgiving's probably going to come off of that bad boy this year. But before that, I have like a little Weber kettle grill that I've had for I don't know how many years. And then just like a little, it's like one of those little brick smokers, the like Smoky Mountain kind of deal you find at Academy. I've had that. Ever since I had the sandwich shop, I'd do hams and bacon and pastrami on that.
Does that take the wood pellets or the chunks of wood?
It takes chunks. I think you can do wood pellets in there. I normally get a fire going separate, with just kind of some chunks, throw it in there, and it has just kind of a fire, like a little, fire tray, and then above it a water tray to kind of help with the moisture and help keep the heat down. But that's kind of what I've used as a smoker. But honestly, I usually just do it at work now. We're doing briskets, hams, and stuff like that at least once a week for a lot of our wholesale clients. So when the smoker's already fired up, it's pretty easy to just say,
nice
I'm gonna have some ribs. Yeah, it keeps me from having to work long hours on the smoker at home over the weekend. And I was like, I'll just do this at work and bring it home.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I already come home smelling like a barbecue joint. So I was like, I'll just keep that as a work thing. I don't need to do that at home as well.
Yeah, I can imagine being tired of cooking and smoking meat by the time you get home.
Oh man, yeah, it's so many of our bath towels just have like a lingering scent of a campfire to them that you've got to enjoy it because it's not going anywhere.
What's your typical day-to-day like? Are you going between Marble Falls quite a bit? Are you Congress more? What's it like for you?
Yeah, I try to go out to Marble Falls at least once a week. I've got a really good crew out there. One of the guys has been here he's been working for Hudson's for like 60-odd years now. And Aaron Bryan, he's my lead butcher out there at Marble Falls. It just does a great job of holding it down. So when we were doing the the addition, I was out there fairly often. I'll probably be out there next week, but most of my days are spent in Austin. Usually come in, catch up on emails, do a lot of paperwork, and then usually after lunch I try to reserve that for actually with us being in deer season, I'll do some of the cutting for our retail counter. Just kind of seeing the day-to-day of just like making sure orders are making it out, all the equipment's working,
solving the problems.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, yep. They say what shit rolls downhill, but it doesn't feel that way all the time. It's like when there's a problem, it seems to roll uphill. Yeah. But so just kind of making sure everything's up and going and making sure my guys can do their jobs. But really what I enjoy is kind of as it gets later in the week, usually I use my Thursdays and Fridays to kind of work on new products, just kind of mess around with doing ham, pastrami, all the stuff that I love doing. But yeah, it's nice when I can get to that because that means everything else is running fine, which is a rare occurrence.
Mm-hmm. What was it about culinary and cooking that pulled at you? I mean, it seems like that was a love of yours since you were very young. I mean, is there anything
I
you can
don't
point
know.
to?
My mom always jokes. She's like, "You're the pickiest eater," and I'm like one of the worst cooks. And I was like, I don't know where this came from. On my dad's side, my grandparents and my aunt, who are still here in Austin, are very much home cooks. They love to cook. So, whenever I'd be down here in Austin, we'd grill steaks, go out to nice restaurants, stuff like that. But I don't know. I just started doing it, and I really enjoy working with my hands. And it's just kind of something where, it's one of the few occupations where what you're doing is going to be ingested by somebody. So, it's a lot of love and care has to be put into that, that you may not see in other industries. So I don't know. It just always was enjoyable for me to kind of have that ability to, take raw meat or take raw vegetables or whatever and turn it into this dish that you can share with friends and family. And it's just one of those things where, I enjoy eating, I enjoy drinking, and, knowing how to kind of prepare stuff was just a passion of mine. I just loved being able to kind of share that, whether it's in restaurants and hotels or whether it be just with friends and family at the house.
I love when I see someone that's taken their passion and become successful with it. I mean, that's the goal. You know?
Yeah,
I mean, that's it. So I love when someone's achieved it. I'm curious. One meal left. What are you cooking?
Oh, man, that is hard. I grew up, the one dish my mom always made that I love was pot roast. Just kind of a home style pot roast with potatoes
classic,
and
yeah.
veggies. Like that's got to be up there. I'd say it'd probably be that. I do a lot of steak and baked potatoes and stuff at the house, so that's a favorite of mine. But I think I have it so often that it's just like some of those dishes that you remember from childhood that you just don't make as much, or definitely
the nostalgia that comes with it.
Yeah, that and she made a lot of King Ranch chicken casserole. I think that was every
I grew up on that.
Texas. Yeah, I think every Texas mother has some version of the King Ranch casserole from the '90s or 2000s. But yeah, I enjoyed that. I don't think it would be a last meal, but that is kind of another one of those meals that I don't really make at home, but it's something you remember from childhood. But yeah, no, we're finally getting into pot roast season now. We're starting to get more and more requests for that at the shop as well, and it's cool to see that whenever I see people ordering like chuck roast and stuff like that. I was like, man, I need to cut one for myself and get this done at home. But problem is working so much during deer season. It's like, all right, I guess it is nice and throw it in the crock pot and have it ready to go.
Definitely.
But, yeah.
That's great. Well, what else we got? I can sit here and ask questions all day. I really kind of want to ask you about aliens. I don't know why, but it's I asked last guest was Ben Masters, and I opened it up with aliens, and I feel like that might be tradition now. I mean, you spend a lot of times in the outdoors. I mean,
yeah.
you have any fun alien stories?
No alien stories. I will say, as a kid, growing up and going out on Lake Travis, back then Austin was a lot smaller. Travis is kind of sunken, so there's hills all around it. And I will say, as a kid, it was really cool. A lot of times we had be out on my parents' houseboat. The weather is nice. We'd sleep outside, just getting to see all the shooting stars, satellites,
UFOs.
Yeah,
I love it.
Maybe. I don't know that I can definitively say anything was a UFO. I think at that age, everything's a UFO, right? I was like, I have no idea what that is. But yeah, there was one night we were coming, or I don't know if we were coming back into the harbor or what we were doing, but we were moving, and all of a sudden you just see hundreds and hundreds of streaks coming through the sky, and I guess it was a space shuttle or something was re-entering the atmosphere.
Starlink.
Yeah, it might have been Starlink. But no, I don't know that I've, even in Colorado, kind of camping and being out there, it's one of those dark sky country where you don't have all the city lights to kind of affect your view. There's definitely stuff you see up in the sky that, you don't have an explanation for, but no close encounters of the third kind.
Bummer.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. Hope I don't know. I guess hopefully one day, but I don't know if that's a hopefully.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun.
Yeah.
With iPhones now, as long as you get a good video, it'd be worth it.
There you go. There you go. It might just be Mr. Burns, exposed from the radiation or whatever
There
from
you
The
go.
Simpsons. But yeah, no, it is nice. I will say I do love that part of Texas, going out to like Davis Mountains. Great hunting out there, but it's also kind of the eastern portion of the Dark Skies territory in that area of the U.S. And it's really cool to be able to get out there and just kind of see,
What's
Absolutely.
up there?
skies. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at the same skies that our ancestors were looking at. So it's pretty cool to have that kind of connection. But no probing and no close encounters for me.
That made me think of the first time I went out to the Guadalupe Mountains, West Texas, highest
Yeah.
point in Texas out there in that national park. And I went out there solo and I was like, I just want to go up to Guadalupe Peak and, do that hike. And so I went out there, got there. I woke up maybe 5 a.m., drove out there, got there about 11 a.m., noon, go check in, get the backcountry permit to go hike. And I don't know why they were messing with me or what, but the lady, the park ranger who gave me the backcountry permit said, yeah, you're the only permit tonight. It's like, okay, you didn't need to tell me that, things. And she also told me that the guy who just came down a few hours before me saw a mountain lion last night. So I'm like, again, I do not need to know this information,
Yeah.
And so I hike up there and, it's a wonderful time. Go up to the peak. You can camp, I guess, about a half mile below the peak, and had a great time, great night. Went to sleep, woke up, did the sunrise on the peak, and hiked back down. And as I was coming back down, I had two people stop me, and they were like, "Hey, was that you with the red flashing light?" I'm like, "Don't know what you're talking about," And go down. Another person asked me, I was like, "Hey, you with the red light?" I'm like, "Not a clue what you're talking about." Again, to get down to the park rangers, and they started asking me, like, what was that red light? I'm like, I don't have a clue. And so apparently somewhere where I was up in the mountains, there was some red flashing light.
Little did he know he was missing for 7 days.
Yeah. A
Maybe
week later, your return.
I was gonna say. So I don't know why it made me think of it, but just going out to West Texas, I was, you're the only one up there, and there was a mountain lion last night. It's like, thank you, ma'am.
That's really
That.
cool. Yeah. Last time I got to go to Big Bend, we were one of the only permits in the little backcountry part we were in. We actually, you have to do a little four-wheeling to get back there, and it was cool. There's me and my wife and a buddy of ours. He actually has an outdoor company called Outdoor Eats that helps people come up with different recipes for outdoor cooking. It's a really cool thing. So we've kind of partnered a little bit, and he's used some of our meats and jerky and stuff in some of his recipes. But we're out there to film for one of his shows, and it's just cool being out there. Just we actually had to clear a bunch of cattle out of our campsite before we got there, because they run them, there along the river. But yeah, I mean, you see all kinds of stuff with, like you said, Starlink. Like, there's just very busy sky up there. Just like, what is going on?
That was the first time I saw the Milky Way with just my naked eye.
Yeah.
Laying there in the tent looking up. You're like, oh wow, that's
that's
actually it right there.
No, yeah, I love. I was actually that group of friends is out at Big Bend this weekend, but with deer season, I wasn't able to go. But yeah, it's one of my favorite places to go. It is a little bit of a lengthy drive, even though it is still in Texas, but it's just beautiful country out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I meant to ask you earlier. I can't think of the guy's name. He owns the restaurant in East Austin that serves a lot of wild game. Diadu.
Oh, Daidue? Yeah.
there we go.
Who is that? I cannot remember his name for the life of me now, but yeah, they do a lot of whole animals as well. One of my friends, Alice, she actually used to be the pastry chef for Daidue for a while.
When you say whole animal, is that like a pig on a stick coming out?
Well, no, but they'll get in whole hogs, butcher them down.
Oh,
I
I see
think they
what
even
you
get in like sides of venison, break that down, and base their menu off of those different cuts, which is a great concept. I love seeing restaurants do that kind of stuff where it's like, yeah, I can order in case after case of New York strips or ribeyes or whatever, or I can, challenge myself a little bit, bring in a whole side, and then you've got different cuts that you have to do something with. Some of them are great for steak, some are great for roasting, stewing, stuff like that.
His name's Jesse.
Jesse?
I believe so.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, Daidue is definitely one of our go-tos. We love going over there. When we were living in South Austin, we'd eat there quite a bit. But
Nice.
yeah, it's really cool. They have all those Nilgai gyros all around the restaurant. Just kind of creepy looking almost. Those Nilgai gyros.
Look like a giant sheep head.
Yeah, well, it's like it has the black, the black horns. I mean, what do they call them? Like devil horse or something like that. But yeah, they're just gigantic creatures, but they're the gyro on them. It's just that stark white with the black horns. Kind of has a creepy look to it. But.
I think they have the Nilgai ceviche there.
Oh, really?
I've heard of it. I haven't had it.
I haven't had it either. It's been a while since we've been there. I may have to bring that back up on the list to go check it out again. But yeah, it's cool seeing that. I think Hudson's on the Bend. Their restaurant just opened back up.
Oh, did they?
620?
Yeah.
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 I live out that way.
Yeah, we've talked to them a little bit about doing some of the stuff. I don't know where they're getting their wild game from, but
I've been there once. I had elk.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah, it's cool having restaurants like that here. I think we had Lonesome Dove. I'm not sure if Tim Love's still downtown, but Lonesome Dove's kind of known for that as well, doing a lot of wild game. And it's cool getting to see, Texas game on menus, which just isn't that popular. Broken Arrow Ranch, I think, does a lot of that as well. It's just got to have a big operation to do it. It's just expensive to do that under either state or USDA inspection because you've got to have a trailer out there. It's got to be harvested and processed pretty quickly after it's killed. So,
what are your go-to Austin restaurants?
Man, I will say at work, I'm a sucker for Mexican food. So we're next to Habanero, Tex-Mex Cafe right there on Old Torf. I love that place. It's probably, a staple on my lunch spot at least a couple times a week. Grew up going to Fonda San Miguel. I love that. Matt's El Rancho. Used to go to Threadgill's a bunch over there. Was that off of Lamar?
That one shut down.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, honestly, the more and more I kind of think about it, a lot of the staples that we used to go to are clearing out, like Frisco Shop over there on Burnett. We used to do all of their chopsteaks and all that stuff there.
I grew up going there.
Yeah.
I remember when it was right here on the corner of Koenig and Burnett.
Yeah.
Where the Walgreens was.
Was it still Frisco Shop or
Frisco
for a while
Nighthawk.
it was called Nighthawk? Yeah.
Frisco Nighthawk was I believe the original.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember a lot of times we'd go there for lunch. We grew up going to Burger Tex over there off of Burnett, which is gone.
Hilbert's right over here off 38th Street.
Yeah, I'm
that
glad to
burger
see
joint.
Dan's is still going strong. That was one that I just love. Like we go to that one over there off of 2222 quite a bit. But I mean, I'll probably get hung for this, but it's probably one of my favorite burgers in town. I love going in and sitting down and eating a Dan's burger and onion rings. But that's probably my favorite hamburger in town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember Holiday House in Terrytown?
Yeah, it had been a long time.
I
but
grew
yeah.
up right down the street from it, so
Really?
That was the spot when we were kids.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool seeing that, a few of the places is still hung on, but yeah, it seems like every year brings another closure of some longtime Austin restaurant or institution. Like,
Well, when are we opening Hudson's Wild Game Steakhouse? I want in.
there we go. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of restaurants coming up available. Trust me, I've got my buddy Andy. We've been talking about a sandwich shop for probably 3 years now, and he always sends me properties and stuff. Is like, I think Bill Miller's closed over here off of Burnett. It's like, man, that'd be a really good sandwich shop.
I agree.
That's a pretty big location. It's probably 4,000 or 5,000 square feet in there.
Yeah, it is. It is. I don't know. It has a sign saying "coming soon." I don't know what's going in there, but as these places close, it is cool getting to see some of the younger chefs and some of the new talent open. But yeah, I still miss me some Threadgills sometimes. Just some of that good old Southern, fried chicken. And
Oh yeah.
we go to Quality Seafood quite a bit too.
off the
Carol over
airport?
there at Quality Seafood. Whenever I'm in the mood for some fried shrimp or some sort of fried seafood, we make a trip over there. But yeah, that place has been there for I think almost 100 years or something. I mean, quality seafood's been around forever. But yeah, that's probably the list. Yeah, but a lot of Tex-Mex. Yeah.
That's go-to for me too.
Yeah,
it's hard to beat.
We don't really go to a whole lot of steakhouses because whenever I, own a meat market, whenever I want a steak, it's pretty easy to just, grab me one of the min cuts and bring it home, and that's dinner a lot of nights whenever I can't think of anything else.
Mm-hmm. That's the hard part about having a bunch of elk backstrap.
Right.
Home 3 nights a week, and then you go to a steakhouse. You're like, it's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
when you know how to make it at home, it's hard to go out and spend the money and critique of like, well, I would have done this different.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
Well, to bring us home, what's anything else on Hudson's you'd like to talk about, or what do you see for the next 5-10 years? Anything coming up? I know you have the new location, potentially seafood. Anything else going on?
No, we're trying to expand our retail offerings. We've kind of moved a lot of our stuff to online, so we're trying to make it a little easier for people all over Texas to try, our sausage and steaks and everything we do here in Austin. But no, I mean, we've kind of played with the idea of opening up another just storefront that would just be, no deer processing, but just another storefront somewhere in Austin. I imagine as the years go, it'll be harder and harder for us to process there on South Congress. So, we've kind of opened the door to start looking around for, maybe doing a storefront somewhere and moving a lot of the processing off to somewhere that makes a little more sense. With the city of Austin energy, it makes it pretty expensive to operate where we do. So, I think as things go, we're just kind of trying to look around and see where it makes sense to, get another storefront and kind of expand what we do.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you the absolute best of luck, and we'll definitely be bringing you some more meat.
Yeah,
I know Forrest will be.
Yeah, he's rubbing off on me. I'm getting the hunting bug.
Oh, there you go.
So
yeah.
I'll be coming in.
It just takes. I know. I had that Neil guy hunt kind of got me going, and that's when we started talking about the elk hunt that we did in Colorado, and now that sprung more hunting talk. When we work with a few guides, and there's a lot more elk being harvested here in Texas. So I think that's probably my next hunt is going to be a
Texas elk.
Yeah. I've been.
Well, let me know where you're headed.
All right, I'll hit you up. But yeah, it's nice. Yeah, he's one of our guys. Just has a few ranchers that he works with that just. Elk are pretty hard on the environment. They eat a lot. They hard on fences. So a lot of these ranchers.
They taste delicious.
Yeah, I want them gone. But yeah, I'm with you on that. I was like, I think I've got to work through a little more of my freezer and then maybe start looking for another one.
Hey, I'm open. We'll take the podcast on the road from
That's
the
right. There
elk camp.
There you go. Yeah, like meat eater style or whatever. Yeah, no,
exactly.
That's cool. Yeah, no, it's fun. There's a lot of good places to hunt here in Texas, and we're lucky to be here for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We greatly appreciate your time. Do you mind telling everyone website and social where they can find Hudson's?
Yeah, definitely. So you can find us at hudsonmeatmarket.com. That'll have our storefront, any information about deer and wild game processing. You can reach out to us at the website. You can find us at 1800 South Congress in Austin, 1405 State Street in Marble Falls. But yeah, the best way to find us is on the web at hudsonmeatmarket.com. But feel free to email us or give us a call. We're always happy to help.
Awesome. Very cool. Thank you for all you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Of course.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Take care.
Cool.
Hell yeah.
There we go.
Thanks.